And welcome everyone to Wizards Pregame. It's the first four games out on the West Coast, which means we'll be talking to y'all very late this week. As always, it's like twice a year. Washington goes out west and has us up very late. You guys as well, obviously, but we got Cardell Dudley Jr., Wilson Tarpe Jr., and Cardell Wizards. They start this trip out west in Utah. They're looking to snap a 16-game losing streak while the Jazz come into this game having dropped their last two games to the Sixers and Raptors. They're in the midst of homestand themselves. The first of those three games was against the Bucks, and they won that one. Injury report: the Wizards will be without Keyshawn George, Tristan Vukovic, Trey Johnson, Alex Sarr, Trey Young, and Cam Whitmore. The Jazz will be missing Kyle Filipowski, Cody Williams, Bryce Sensabaugh, Isaiah Collier, and Lloyd Markin. So we knew this was going to be a game between your two teams who have made it very clear what their intentions have been this season. Carter, I know from a prep standpoint, um, that injury report just tore apart so much. So that said, of after like the six players that you carefully took your time to get slides prepared for, and the injury report just torched that. Who do you want to discuss in terms of keys to tonight's game?
Yeah, man. Well, we're just gonna start with the main thing, the team thing that they got to watch out for. Obviously, that may be different with the injuries that the guys that are sitting out, but with the Jazz, they've had their struggles this season. Honestly, eyeing this upcoming draft. One thing they do well is they get to the free throw line very well. They top five in the league free throw attempts. They average a little over 25 a game, and they are fourth in free throw makes in the league. They average just under 21 a game, which means they're ninth in the NBA in free throw shooting percentage at 79.9%, just under 80. Like I said, they have key players that are out that may impact that, but regardless, as a team, as a whole, they put the ball in the basket. So the Wizards have to defend without fouling, even though that should just be the norm anyway, but it's especially um, applies to tonight because the Jazz will make you pay. It's as simple as that. You can't you gotta keep them off the line. That's how they generate a lot of their points and make up for the fact that they're not the most efficient team scoring from the field and definitely from 3-point line where they're 24th in the league, shooting 34%. They move the ball extremely well, contrary to what people believe. May want to believe. They're second in the league in assists. They average 29.3 assists per game. So they have a lot of young talent, just building the roster to fit one another and establishing where they're gonna go moving forward. The main thing is keeping their guys healthy. So they're not without talent. I mean, the Wizards are wounded as well. So and they're both kind of in the same boat, so to speak, of eyeing the draft and evaluating. Meanwhile, trying to get key guys healthy as they go into all season to try to be ready for next year. But going into tonight, man, obviously we're gonna start with the young boy, the young rookie Ace Bailey, man. Coming off a hell of a game. Um, a couple nights ago, I think he had about 37 in that game. He's coming on strong late in the season. I think it's starting to click for him what the league is all about. I think the game's starting to slow down, and I think he's starting to understand where he can get to his spots and execute and get his type of shots and be efficient with those type of shots and make his plays as he continue to learn the league. And that takes time. Every young player is different. The talent was never in question. It's just a matter of when was he going to figure it out? When was the game going to slow down? They're starting to do that. One thing that he's elite at already, and that was apparent in college because he had a lot of nasty putbacks or with his athleticism, his second jump is crazy. It's his offensive rebound, as you can see. He's pretty good at that, man. He averages 1.5 offensive rebounds per game, but he only averages 4.1 rebounds overall. So that's a big percentage of his overall rebounding total. And that's why you see the grades. Like, you got to keep a body on him. You got to keep him off the glass. And it's not just coming up with the offensive mess and dunking it back home and all that. Is giving this team extra possessions. And for a team that don't shoot the ball well from the field And from deep, you can't give them extra possessions because they're still NBA players. They're gonna make you pay, and that's just something that the Wizards gonna have to try to contain. Plus, his confidence is sky high with his 37-point game against the Raptors, who have a lot of wings that get after it on defense. So I know he's coming in tonight. Like, all right, I ain't gonna see nothing like that. Maybe Bilal, but Keyshawn and all them, a lot of wings out. You know what I mean? So he looking at it like, I'm gonna try to duplicate what I did the other night. You know, even though he was hot, especially from deep, being 7 to 10, had 6 rebounds, 3 assists. You know, he can get buckets, man. And the one thing, outside of 3-point shooting that is coming along is his mid range game. He just got to be able to. It's just the type of mid range shots that he takes that messes it up and makes him inefficient. You got to take the ones when it's there, and when they run him off the 3-point line and it's in rhythm. It comes from college. Even in college, you can see he made shots, but they were always tough shots. He has to simplify that and take more efficient shots to make the defense pay, because anybody would live with the tough shots. If you make them, cool. You know what I mean? But I don't think nobody's worried about, not at this stage, Ace Bailey making a number of tough shots to be a true threat. Maybe down the line that'll be the case, but not right now, man. So, that's something that he has to continue to work on. Uh, Also, his playmaking, he's solid. I'm not gonna say he's elite yet, because that's not his role. His role is obviously be a versatile defender, put the ball in the basket, help with rebounding. But he's capable. You know what I mean? So with those other guys being out, I'm pretty sure they're gonna put him to the test as far as being able to do a lot more, to see if he could do a lot more. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just the other guys, the two ways, the fringe guys. That's not just them being evaluated, it's him too. Even though he's a rookie, so they know what they need to go try to get when this draft thing is settled. You know what I mean? So he's being evaluated. Obviously, Bez Bing from local product from Good Counsel, get a chance to see him. He's just playing this role. He actually got to start against the Raptors. Played 31 minutes at 3 points and 3 rebounds. Just setting the table, trying to get everybody else involved, man. Getting his feet wet in the league, trying to figure it out. So it's always good to see the local guys, get their foot in the door, see if they can try to stick, man. Conchar, Conchar had a big game. He only averages 3 points and 3 rebounds, 46% from the field. And we all know he's pretty much he's usually a dead eye sniper. Even though he's struggling this season, he came alive against the Raptors, man. He had 19 points, 4 or 5 from the field, 3 or 4 from deep. So that's another person they keep an eye on. Oscar Schwebe, out of Kentucky, averaging 5 and 4, but he had a near double in the game against Toronto, 16 points, 7 rebounds. Just give me y'all names to keep track of that will be coming to here with confidence, because they had big nights against a even stronger team in the Raptors and whatnot. So we know what he's capable of. We know he can easily get a double. He was a double machine at Kentucky. You know what I mean? And he's been doing that in the G League, back and forth between the G and the NBA, man. So he's trying to find a home. So you got to keep an eye on these young players, man, because that's what this game is definitely going to be about, to see which young players are further ahead and which ones can try to win. Now, I know upstairs, we all know what they probably prefer at this point, but evaluations are evaluations. That ain't, if you're a player, that ain't my problem. You evaluate me to produce and win. So that's what I'm out here to do, and that's my job. So that's what people should be looking forward to. It's unfortunate that it's a lot of injuries that kind of impact this game, but you got to keep an eye on, starting with Ace Bailey, and then the names I threw out there: Oscar Schwebe, Conchar, Besman from local product, and we're gonna see how it goes as they battle the young players for the Wizards.
Yeah, like you said, it's one of those things. They're both in similar situations where they both hope to have a top pick in the lottery, and trying to figure out how everything fits in that roster going forward. For whatever this year was for both groups, the expectation is for both teams. You go to the draft and you figure out who's on your roster, who fits where, and it should be go time for both teams next year. We you talked about all the young folks on Utah. and that's going to be huge because of they traded for some veteran players just like Washington did.
Mhm.
Washington got Trey and AD obviously, but they got Jaren Jackson over there with Laurie, and we haven't seen a lot of them this year because again, we understand what both organizations are trying to do, but again, that's if you're a young player that's there right now, wouldn't you want to be a part of that starting group or make sure that you're at least in that rotation? That potentially can make some noise out west. You've been talking about how important it is to have multiple bigs. Utah has Utah has that. They don't all play this year, and again, we know why. They set themselves up pretty well. And yeah, Ace is coming off a year. Um, yeah,
That 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 front court with Laurie Markkinen and
mhm.
Jackson Jr. and Walker Kessler and Keontae George before he went down with the hamstring, man. He was
He was
cool.
on one before, like he
Yeah,
took a step this year before.
fortunately, yeah, man.
Hmm.
Like, don't get it twisted. They got some young talent. Like, man, some of these teams are they right there. Next year, all right, let's start winning. They're gonna be dangerous. It's gonna be a bunch of. I think it's gonna be a bunch of young teams. They're in the tanking pool. I'll call it the tanking pool this year. They're gonna
Yeah,
shock people. They're gonna, especially with Adam Silver saying what he said earlier regarding that. Like, all right, we gonna put an end to that. So
this was the last hurrah for that. So
yeah,
yeah.
bro. He like enough of that.
So you might as well make the most of it. And yeah, get ready to go ahead and hit the ground running. But as you said, evaluation, there are all these youngsters on both sides of the fence in this one. So you guys enjoy the next game. We'll check with you guys afterwards for Wizards Outlook, albeit a little bit later than usual. Uh, Again, Cardell gave you guys a nice list of names to keep up with. Keep that in mind as you're watching tonight's game.